I've seen buyers spending a lot of time looking at houses, and after a while they just get exhausted and they want it to stop. But you should never settle, and there are some homes that you should never buy. It doesn't matter how long you've been looking or how many different houses you've seen and how strong the market is for sellers and how few options there are. You should never buy some of these types of houses in Hawaii because you could absolutely be regretting it later on. I'm Mike Drutar, your resource for all things real estate in Hawaii. And let's get to this list of the homes that you should never buy in Hawaii. First on my list is homes with single wall construction. Now, for a lot of people watching this on the mainland, they might not even know what single wall construction is. Single wall construction is a construction style that was used many years ago and pretty commonly in Hawaii, where just a sheet of wood was placed as the wall for the interior or the exterior of the home and walls in between rooms. So instead of seeing 2x4s with sheetrock or plaster on either side, you actually have just a plank of wood that is a 1/2 inch thick, and that's the wall. You could hang a nail on the wall in the living room and then go around to the bedroom where the nail is sticking out the other side of the wall and hang a picture there as well. Now, the reason that single wall construction is a big problem is that it is nowhere near the current building codes. And depending on what you do, some types of improvements on your home will require a complete remodel with double wall construction and double pane windows. This could be incredibly expensive. Additionally, we are starting to see that some insurance companies will not cover homes with single wall construction. Just be aware, this is going to be a very, very difficult home to sell in the future. It's going to be hard to get financing and insurance on a home like this. So definitely watch out for single wall construction. The second type of property that you really have to be careful of is a leasehold property. This is another uniquely Hawaiian thing, and a lot of people don't really understand what leasehold property means. On a leasehold property, you own all the improvements on the property, but you lease the land underneath it. So if you have a small house on a piece of leasehold land and your lease runs out, technically you could take that house with you and move it somewhere else. Or if you have crops planted on the land, you could take those crops and move them somewhere else when your lease expires. But a lot of the leasehold properties are actually large condominium complexes, and some of these leases are coming up due here within 10 years. So at the end of the lease, they are under no obligation to let you stay there. They may choose to renegotiate a new lease for you, or they may simply tell you, your lease is up and we're taking back possession of the property, and you're welcome to take the condominium with you, which of course you can't physically do. So they get the condominium and the land when your lease is up. Now, there are a few specific situations where a leasehold property might actually work for someone. If someone is older and a lease is significantly longer than the amount of time they expect to be alive and they don't have anyone to leave their assets to, it is actually a pretty inexpensive way to get some housing. But those are very, very rare situations. Often you'll see leasehold properties with very attractive prices, and it will look good at first. But the reason you have that attractive price is because the value of a leasehold property is constantly going down, and it is a depreciating asset, which is not the type of real estate we like. The longer you own that property, the more difficult it becomes to sell because the closer it's getting to the end of that lease, and financing on a leasehold property is extremely difficult. The third type of property that you definitely want to stay away from is a house or a condominium that backs up to a major road. If there's a lot of traffic noise, you have to be aware that that is going to be a problem. Now, I've had a lot of these showings where we had a house that backed up to a road and people said, well, you know, I'm from a large city. We had a lot of traffic noise and this isn't that bad to me. I can actually live with that. The problem is when you go to sell that home, it is very difficult to sell it because it may be loud to a lot of other people. And at the end of the day, what you end up having to do is making significant price reductions to be able to sell that home. So even if it's not a big problem problem for you, it's definitely going to be a big problem for people later on. And God help you if you happen to be in a buyer's market at that time with a lot of listings that you're competing against, because people are just looking for a reason to cross properties off their list. And if you have a house with a lot of noise from trucks going up hills or high-speed highways behind it, it is going to be very difficult to sell, and you're going to have to lower your price a lot. The fourth type of property that you definitely want to stay away from is anything located in Lava Risk Zone 1. Lava Risk Zone 1 is the highest risk, and it is where the rift zones are, and it is where it is extremely likely that you will have in the next 100 years some lava flow actually over it. You can't get insurance anymore in Lava Zone 1. There is no lending. You can only pay cash, but you can see from the 2018 Kilauea eruption, even if it's not had anything happening in decades, it can happen all of a sudden. That eruption took out over 700 homes, and while we're talking about it, you have to be very careful of where you are in Lava Zone 2. I would be very, very reluctant to buy any property in Lava Zone 2 that is located directly below Lava Zone 1. Now, there's a lot of places in Lava Zone 2 that are less risky than others, but if you're right below the east rift zone of Kilauea, you may have what happened to the people in Kapoho, where while you are not in Zone 1, the lava flows from Zone 1 downhill to you. So you have to be very careful and selective of where you are in Lava Risk Zone 2. I would probably avoid Risk Zone 2 in Puna, while I would be less concerned about it in the Captain Cook or Ocean View area. The fifth type of property you want to be really careful to buy is an agriculturally zoned property that is right next to a large agricultural operation. Now, there could be a lot of different types of things happening on ag land, and you just need to be aware of what your neighbors are doing while you're buying a property on ag land. Most ag land is perfectly fine, but you may be right next to a rooster farm and having incredible noise all the time. So just be very aware of exactly where you're buying an agricultural property. Check on the operations going on around you. Most agricultural properties are absolutely fine, but if your neighbor is running a large-scale agricultural operation that could have some smell, that could have a lot of noise, that's something you definitely want to avoid. The last type of property that I would avoid is a house directly next to a stream that is large or a gulch. The FEMA flood maps do a good job of covering areas, but they don't always get every little nook and cranny. And if you're located next to a stream or a gulch, you could run into some real problems. We can have really, really crazy rains in small areas with dozens of inches in a day or two that lead to some extreme flooding events. And sometimes the streams or gulches that are there just can't handle it and it overflows. Additionally, because of all the elevation change that we have, they can get flowing really strong, and you can actually find that they take out the banks of their streams, and that can lead to some real catastrophic issues with the house being too close to a stream and actually having a lot of erosion that undermines the structural stability of the house. So I would never buy a home next to a stream or a gulch, just because of the flooding and the possibility that future erosion will take out the house. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about the mistakes buyers make when buying in Hawaii, check out this list right here.